Let's turn things over now to Murray Feldman.
All right, thank you, Alan. And on this Money Monday, there are more than 5,000 families here in metropolitan Detroit who are newly bankrupt. They recently filed one of the biggest surges in bankruptcy filings in recent memory. And so attorney Michael Jafar from the firm Jafar & Mahdi in Dearborn is here today to talk with us about that. What do you see happening? Is it the economy that's getting people?
You know, the economy is one of the usual culprits for when people start filing bankruptcy. Two of the biggest reasons usually that people file bankruptcy either because of a serious medical illness that they suffer or because of an interruption in income. Interruption in income is the main reason usually that people file bankruptcy, because when you think about it, if you're used to making the minimum payments on your debts and your mortgage and your credit cards, and then your paycheck disappears for a couple of months, even with unemployment, which is a lot smaller than what you usually get paid, that usually is the interruption in income that's enough to push you over the edge to have to consider something like bankruptcy.
Consider something like bankruptcy, not necessarily file. And I say that because a lot of people who come to you think that they're going to leave filing, but you tell them that it's not a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, and bankruptcy is something it's a very big deal to do it, so you only do it if you absolutely have to. It's always supposed to be looked at as something as a last resort. People definitely don't come to me and saying, I'm excited to file bankruptcy. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so I always find ways to help people avoid bankruptcy when they come see me. There's a lot of options to avoid bankruptcy, but if bankruptcy is the right option for you, I will always recommend it, because the worst thing you could do is not file bankruptcy if you should be filing bankruptcy, and vice versa. If you file bankruptcy when you shouldn't, that's another pretty bad thing.
All right, so how do you make the decision to go or not to go? Let's take a look at what bankruptcy can do and what bankruptcy can't do. First of all, it can wipe out your unsecured debt, so we're talking about credit cards.
Yeah, credit cards, unsecured loans, medical bills, payday loans. These are the common ones. Now, there's more debts than that you can wipe out into bankruptcy, but these are generally the main things that people usually have. Okay, and these are totally wiped out in bankruptcy unless obviously you committed some sort of a fraud to obtain them. Once in a great while I'll get somebody who comes in and they lied in order to get a loan. That's different, but by and large you can wipe out all of these debts in a bankruptcy.
Got an email this morning ahead of today's segment on Money Monday, and somebody said, I know you're going to be talking about bankruptcy. Hey, listen, I had some taxes that were not wiped out.
Most tax debt cannot be wiped out in a bankruptcy. Also, student loans cannot be wiped out in a bankruptcy, and back child support cannot be wiped out in a bankruptcy. These are the three main categories of things that cannot be discharged in a bankruptcy. There's a few others, but these are the main things that you usually see.
All right, what about your credit score? Does it totally tank your credit score?
One of the biggest myths about bankruptcy is that it destroys your credit and you can't get credit for 10 years. It's just totally untrue. While it is true that the fact of you filing bankruptcy stays on your credit report for 10 years, it's not true that your credit is destroyed. Your credit will start improving within about a year after filing bankruptcy, and then usually 2 to 3 years after filing bankruptcy, you see people's credit scores are very well rehabilitated. And you can usually qualify for a home loan 2 to 4 years after filing bankruptcy. Now, there's other things you need to do to qualify for loans, which is you have to have income and you have to have good payment history after filing bankruptcy. But the fact of you filing bankruptcy doesn't destroy your credit for 10 years. You can rehabilitate your credit pretty quickly.
All right. You have to work at it.
Yes, yeah.
But it can be done.
Yes.
One other thing I want to mention here, that there is a growing problem with a lot of people who think they are getting good bankruptcy counseling.
Yes.
And they're really not. And you have called it a growing problem. Let's take a look at some of the things that are going on out there with people who may not be ready to help you, even though they purport to be ready to help you. These are people who are not attorneys. They're not members of the bar.
This is such a growing problem that the local bankruptcy court came down with an administrative order limiting these bankruptcy petition preparers. These are non-attorneys that promise to prepare your bankruptcy for a low fee. And obviously, if you're someone who's running into financial problems and cash flow is tight, it's going to be tough to hire an attorney because bankruptcy is a little bit expensive. So what happens with a lot of these non-attorneys is they promise you to prepare your bankruptcy for a low fee. What people don't know is that these people don't know anything about bankruptcy. They are not allowed to give you legal advice, and then they cause you more harm than good, because now you file your bankruptcy without an attorney, you go to the hearing, these bankruptcy petition preparers cannot represent you at that hearing, and so, all of a sudden your case starts getting messed up and you don't understand why. You thought you got a bargain. At the end of the day, you got more than you bargained for.
And if you lie, it could wipe out the whole thing.
Honesty is key in bankruptcy. Lying on your bankruptcy petition is a bankruptcy crime. It's a federal crime. And so another thing with these bankruptcy petition preparers is you don't really understand what's going on. You may end up lying on accident on your papers. You don't know what you're signing. A bunch of stuff is put in front of you. You need an attorney to go through it and explain to you that you have to make sure this bankruptcy is filed legitimately and accurately quickly. Otherwise, it could cause a lot of problems for you.
All right, great advice, Michael. Attorney Michael Jafar from the firm Jafar and Mahdi. They're based in Dearborn. Do a lot of consumer conferences and seminars throughout the year in the neighborhood, and when they do, we'll have them for you on myfoxdetroit.com, the website that's working for you. And we'll work for you tonight at 5. I'll be back with Money Works, the Job Shop, and all the news you need to know, because we're working for you.